Hi everybody, it's Rachel coming to you from Pierre, South Dakota. Check it out, I'm at the Capitol building today. Meg is doing her junior achievement magic, I think in Lee Deadwood today, so she's in a classroom, and I am working with a group that's commemorating the women's suffrage movement. So on today at 12:44 a.m. this morning, 100 years ago, the South Dakota Congress, I guess, ratified the 20th Amendment, women's right to vote. So, was it 19th Amendment? 20th was prohibition, I think. Or do I have that wrong? Someone correct me. I should know this. I just spent 2 hours listening to a briefing about it. Anyway, South Dakota ratified it 100 years ago today. So we're going to be working with a big committee with the support of Governor Noem's office to have a big celebration event in August of next year when it was the last state required to ratify. It was Tennessee ratified it in August. So we're going to have a big event, big fun stuff happening all year. So, hey Bob. So today the topic was about interviews, and Jason, who's on, had a really great story about an interview that he had for a tech job. So be sure to go read that on the post that Shelly posted earlier today. But interviewing is an interesting thing, and it's funny because of the world we live in, and that Meg and I, all of the culture type work that we do, I really have a hard time distancing myself from those sorts of ideas. So one of the things that when we think about interviewing, so I wrote the questions down to my handy little notebook because, again, I'm sort of out in the parking lot. I was actually down by the lake, which is beautiful, but there's a lot of geese down there and they're very noisy. So I'm up in the parking lot, which is actually quieter. You can kind of hear the geese in the background. So one of the questions from the poll this week, the one that got the most votes, was what has changed in interviewing? And this is great because Meg was an HR exec up at the mine for a long time, and she works as sort of a fractional human resources person for some of our clients. And one of the things that always comes up all the time is the new ability, or the ability to find information online. So for sure, the absolute minimum thing you want to do is do your research. So I don't even have a phone call with people now before I check out their LinkedIn profile and try to understand who they are, maybe check out their website. So again, though, that implies that you need to have your LinkedIn site, or what updated. Now that's for business, that's for professionals. Now if you're a creative or an artist, perhaps there's a better venue for you to showcase your portfolio online. Maybe it's a website, maybe it's a Facebook group, maybe it's Instagram. So be aware of what world space you exist in online, and where, if I was going to hire a designer, where would I go look and expect to see your work and your credentials? Because frankly, right now, there's a lot of people out there, and especially we work in sort of startup world a lot, and there's a lot of people that say things that are a stretch of the truth. And so you want to do all the research you can online. You want to be investigating or looking into who the executives are, where they've been, how long they've been there. Another big piece that I find really valuable to understand and know is to really do research about what stage the company's in. So, because we do work around transitions, one of the huge challenges for companies is when they're going through a big growth phase, or perhaps they haven't gone through any growth phase in a really long time. Where is the company, and why are they hiring you? Are they hiring you because morale stinks and they have a huge turnover? Are they hiring you because they're in a huge growth phase and they need really good people to help them grow? So do a lot of the research about some of that. Look up, bigger companies actually have a lot of press releases and news And so I would recommend searching in Google News or in news outlets to see if that company has been in the news and for what reasons. You might not really want to go work for someone who is undergoing a big history of sexual harassment issues, or maybe they just got busted for some other HR situation. So be sure that you're checking out things like that. Another thing that might be really interesting to research before you interview for a job is what kind of salaries are we talking? Is it a public company or a private company? Problems or challenges around teams and roles are very different, or can be very different, between a publicly held firm and a privately held company. So all of those sorts of details would be really useful to know before you go into an interview. And frankly, those are the exact kinds of things you can ask questions about when you go talk to an executive or the HR person that you're talking to. Tell me about what's going on with this firm or the company. Tell me what the org structure is. The other things that are important to know is, if it's an LLP, which is a partnership, which is a lot of CPA firms and legal firms, that organization and how they work is much different than a quote-unquote more traditional corporate structure. And so those are the kinds of things that understanding and asking questions about, even if you don't necessarily understand their answer, they'll be really impressed that you thought to ask the question. So 100% my rule is do your homework, find out everything you can about the company, about who you're talking to, who the executives are in that firm, and be sure to ask a lot of questions, because in my mind, if you go into that interview thinking, this is it's an interview for me, I'm interviewing this company to see if I want to work for them, that is a completely different mindset than, oh my God, I hope I get this job. And then you get into panic mode and you want to just say nice things all the time, right? And so be sure that you go in prepared. Get your LinkedIn profile or your Instagram or whatever world you live in that they would expect to find your stuff on. Make sure that you're prepared, your online presence is appropriate and what you want it to be, and then make sure you do the research on that company, the executives, their salary, is it public, private. I see we have a NASA employee on. Hi, check that out. What division are you working? If it's a huge organization, let's say like NASA, what division are you working in? How does that fit in onto the org chart? Are they funded a lot? Are they not funded very much? Are they always underfunded? Are they getting a big congressional allocation? There's just so much research you could do now because of the online capabilities that you have and the search capabilities. Don't squander that opportunity to make sure you do some of that research. All right, I'm just checking my notes here. Let's see. Another thing today, now, culture and morale are huge. And the number one reason people leave an organization is, their boss, they don't like their boss, or the culture is a poor fit. Sorry, I gotta switch hands here. And so it's really important, ask questions about, what's employee satisfaction look like? What's employee engagement numbers? When was the last time you did an employee engagement survey? What were the results? What did you do differently? If I walked around and asked people if they liked working here, what would they tell me? Ask about those questions, because really good companies can answer them. And those are the people you want to work for. Companies that don't have an answer to that or are surprised that you asked, probably not someone that you want to work for necessarily. So just gather all the data that you can. One of the things too, if you're a minority or a woman or have other concerns that are sort of not, mainstream, check out their website. Do they have people of color already in, executive positions? I remember when I was looking for a professor job. Since I have a PhD, I can be a professor. And so that's always an option for me to look at universities. And I remember looking at a faculty webpage, and they were all men. There was not one woman on their faculty. And so I would be the first, if I got the job, I'd be the only woman. And I just thought, I don't want to fight that fight. Like, I want to go where I can get there and they already have a history and experience of having a multiple gendered environment. And so, take a look. I mean, sometimes maybe you want to be the first person of color in that organization and you want to, forge that path. And sometimes you don't. So look around, see do they have people that you want to work with. All right. So those are some of the tips to prepare. And the other thing is, do a little soul searching, a little self-reflection, and decide what's important to you. Do you care about the culture? Maybe not. Maybe you just want a bigger paycheck. Maybe you want to work in an organization where you're part of a team. Think about your culture type. Are you socially motivated or not really? Do you want a job that's the exact same every single day? That's awesome. There's a lot of people that really love that. But maybe that's not the role that you're getting. So really be aware of what you want and what you think will suit you. And culture types can really help you with that. Having a culture type mismatch for a role is doable. We can do anything we set our mind to, but it will be a lot less stressful, you'll be a lot more productive if you have a role that really suits your culture type. The corollary to that related is that be aware of your phase. So if you're in an innovation phase, and again, check out the book or our website for more information on some of this if you're not familiar with our terminology. If you're going through a big change, so these things, you get married, you buy a car, you get a dog, you decide to have a baby, and you move, right? And you change jobs. Like, this is how we do, right? This is how humans do. Once you let go of your former how things are and you look forward and you're not really sure what your future looks like, you're very open to change, and that's exciting and empowering and just frankly thrilling a lot of times. But it can be a trap and lead you astray. So it might lead you to make a choice because you're like, sure, I can do anything. Well, Meg likes me to tell the story. You probably have heard it for those of you who are regular listeners, that I dated a guy who was a neon light bender. And clearly he was not going to be a life choice for me, a life partner, but he had big arms and was cute, right? So seemed like a good idea at the time. And so, but that's the kind of decision that is okay to make if it's not permanent, right? Because then, 6 months later, you're like, oh, that didn't work out the way I thought it was going to. So try to be aware of what phase you're in, and that if you're open to a lot of options, that can be great and exciting and fun, but it can also trap you into a situation that you don't want to be in. So try to be self-aware, be a little self-reflective. One way that's great to do that is always writing it out, journaling, saying words out loud. You can get in your own head a lot, and if you say words out loud, a lot of times that helps you actually process and hear what you're actually saying. So find that trusted advisor or a good friend who will be honest, write that journal entry, and try to be real, and use the culture types as a framework. I mean, that's why it's there, and that's why it's so great and useful, because it can be used in these kinds of situations. Let's see, what else do I got? Oh, the other thing I would say is so the other thing that's important is to also think about the culture type of the company. And we haven't talked about this too much on the Facebook Lives, but one of the things that we look at is, let's think about NASA versus SpaceX. I use this example all the time. SpaceX is sexy and innovative, and they're launching cars into outer space, and Elon's smoking weed on TV or whatever. And, then you have NASA, which has a zero tolerance for risk. It's a big bureaucracy. It takes a long time to get anything approved. It's huge budgets, but it takes a long time to get anything done, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the two end points, right? Like you have this, and, maybe SpaceX won't be around in 10 years because they're so far in the red. They can't do anything. They can't make any money. But, NASA is reliable, consistent. You can count on them. Where they stand. They're published. All of the good things about being a really consistent, reliable company or organization in that case. So know yourself and know what kind of organization you might actually want to work for. Do you want to work for the SpaceX? You want to be crazy and creative and whiteboard ideas and think, and try something different today than you did 2 days ago, and that it's crazy and you don't know if you have a job, but it'll be exciting. That is a different kind of role than going to work for NASA, where you know that you're embedded in a big organization that's going to be consistent and reliable. And so that's the kinds of things that you want to know about the organization. So don't only apply the culture types to yourself, apply the culture type framework to the company you're going into, and does that align with what you want? I guess the other thing too is to think about who you're interviewing with. When we actually come down to the interview where you have to interface with another human, you can kind of figure out what culture type they are by checking out their LinkedIn profile a little bit. So people that have been in the same job for 20 years, they're going to be more of an order tolerant person. They're going to have a different perspective on your skills that you bring to the table. So let's say you're interviewing with the stabilizer and you're a chaos person. Well, the more you talk about your chaotic, exciting, innovative nature, it might be the more they're turned off by that, because people hire people like them because often, now maybe some HR people can see beyond that, but often we identify ourselves in people, right? So, think about, if you're going into an innovative role and you want an innovative role, a chaos-oriented role, and you're interviewing with the stabilizer, what you might focus on is your reliability, your consistency, your record of attendance and success on projects, and how many people you managed, and that sort of thing. And now if you're interviewing with the chaos person, then you want to emphasize your creativity and your idea generation and how many projects that you came up with and successfully closed. So you might want to think about the actual situation where who you're actually talking to, the individual you're actually talking to. Sorry, Shelly just emailed me. We're slow rolling out our new website. We had some email issues, so she's messaging me, which is great. Thank you for the update, Shelly. So it's so important this is your life you're talking about, right? We say all the time in Rose Group that it's all life: home, work, church, community, whatever, sports, whatever the things are that you're into, it is all life. You spend more time at work than you do anywhere else. So make sure that you're being deliberate and conscious. Even the chaos people in the room, be sure that you do your homework, that your online presence is the way that reflects you. And so another little tip I'll say is that the resume thing has changed a lot. What you want to know, sorry, my hair is like crazy. I'm seeing this happening. I don't even know how to fix it. What we're seeing a lot is that people, if you apply for a job with Rose Group, I don't really want to know the litany of where you were and all the little details of all the things that you did. What I want to know is what you were able to pull off. So, yes, sure, mention that you are the head of customer service or you oversaw the customer service team, but tell me that you actually reduced the number of unhappy clients from 20% to 2%. Tell me that you were able to feedback information into the operational side of the company to reduce the number of customer complaints and then increase your revenue. That's the kind of thing that we want to know about. So don't give me all the list of all the things that you did. Tell me what you've accomplished. And in that vein, be sure you're thinking about who you are and what you've accomplished, because a lot of times we don't give ourselves enough credit. And so one really fun exercise you can do before you go into an interview is to write down 100 things that you're proud of, that you've accomplished in your job, maybe at home, personal, wherever it might be. Because doing that, A, reminds you of all the amazing things you did, and B, it gives you a lot of confidence about, I can pull off some pretty great stuff. And so it's really a fun way to sort of prep yourself to go into talking. Sorry, I'm trying to lighten up my screen here just a little bit. It's like 5 o'clock, so the sun's setting because it's South Dakota. It's not 5 o'clock, it's only 3. But it feels like that. So those are just some tips that I would encourage you to consider for the interviews. I was trying to think, Jason had that great example of an interview. I'm not sure I have anything that sexy or fun, but I do remember one, it wasn't really an interview, but I always encourage people, if you want a job at, say, SpaceX or, anywhere. If you want a job anywhere, I'm going to turn around and see if I can get a brighter light here. if you want a job anywhere, find a person at that organization that you can connect with. Because if I was talking to somebody I was at the city council meeting in my little town the other day, and they had a ridiculous amount of applications for a job, and sorting through them all was like so crazy, and people are looking for better jobs, better work. And so the best thing to do is make a connection. So I tell this to my nieces and nephews and young people in my life who are either going to look for a college or going to work for their first job. If you are one of 1,000 people or one of 10 people or one of 200 people that apply for a job, it's hard to have you sift to the top just by resume alone. I don't care how great your resume is. But if someone knows you and is looking for your name, that's going to be a lot easier to get to that critical interview phase. So I would say that, reach out and know somebody. They will also tell you about the morale. They'll give you insight into how the company works and what's the situation going on there, and is it really a place you want to work. And so that's a really powerful tool. So I often, even for our company, for potential clients, we will meet somebody and have a conversation and get to know each other and basically figure out, do we even want to work together before we even talk about a potential work arrangement or support. We have geese coming. Hopefully I don't get pooped on. We'll see. Anyway, fingers crossed. So anyway, those are just some ideas about looking for work, thinking about jobs, evaluate the company, evaluate yourself and what you actually want, the kind of role you want. Be sure you ask a million questions. If you do those things, you'll have a much better chance of A, landing a job that you actually want, and B, just landing the job to start with. So anyway, I'm going to hop out and go back to my event today, all based on women's suffrage. So for those of you who joined late, I'm here at Pierre, South Dakota, our state capital, as part of a centennial celebration. Today, South Dakota ratified women's right to vote, the amendment, and so that's exciting. And then in August of 2020 is when the last state that we needed to ratify, that was Tennessee. So we're going to have celebrations and activities all the way around from now until August. So if you're in South Dakota or in other states, there's a lot going on all across the U.S. I hope you enjoy some of those activities and come out and join us. So anyway, take care, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.